Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for January 27th, 2025. We do first off have a subdivision authority meeting. So I will call that subdivision authority meeting to order and ask for an adoption of the agenda, please. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to agenda item 3, requesting the adoption of the minutes. Any questions, concerns, changes? Some prayer to make that a required motion. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Subdivision Authority on November 25th, 2024 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to agenda items 4.1. Mr. Thibault.
We'll have Ms. Selena Newberry and Chris Egan come forward to discuss the subdivision authority.
All right. Ms. Newberry, Mr. Egan.
Good afternoon,
Good
Mayor
afternoon.
and Council.
Good afternoon.
So for the first subdivision we have before us today, this is for a 3-acre parcel up in our Eureka Industrial Park. So this particular parcel would be 3 acres that we would be taking out of a larger portion. The conditions on this are pretty standard to other conditions for town-owned land, with 2 exceptions. The first one being condition number 2, which talks about reserve. So I've put in that we'll put a deferred reserve caveat on the against title lot 5, block 4 descriptive plan to make sure that we do take out any municipal reserve that is required under the Municipal Government Act. And then the other condition that is slightly different will be condition 7, which just says that before we endorse this plan that we will have the land rezoned from the urban reserve to the medium industrial district. And they should ultimately finish around the same time, so it shouldn't hold anything up.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever, so I'm prepared to make that required motion. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the motion that the subdivision authority approve subdivision TT 24-0-010 for lot 5, block 4, descriptive plan 201-2004, northeast quarter, section 8, TWP 10, Range Road 16, W4M. That's why I don't make these motions. Of no assigned civic address with the following 9 conditions.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Here now, thank you. Item 4.2 related to TT-24-0-011. Mr. Thibault?
So we'll leave the same 2 people up here and discuss the 6-acre parcel.
All right, thank you.
So again, good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
For this particular subdivision, this is for a 6-acre parcel, again, out of the same lot block plan as the previous one up in our Eureka industrial area. You'll notice the same kind of 2 conditions on this one, with number 2 speaking to the municipal reserve requirement, and then again, number 7 speaking to just making sure that the redistricting or rezoning has completed before we can endorse this subdivision to go to land titles.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? None whatsoever. Councillor Bruin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepared to make the motion that the subdivision authority approve subdivision TT 24-0-011 for lot 5, block 4, descriptive plan 201-0204, northeast quarter, section 8, township 10, range 16, west of the 4th meridian, of no assigned civic address with the following 9 conditions.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And I just ask for a motion to close the subdivision authority meeting, please. Councillor McLean, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. right, I would call the regular Taber Town Council meeting to order. And just start off with the agenda is adopted as amended to allow for the opportunity to undertake a closed session item 10.2, board appointment for the Taber Police Commission to prevent disclosure of applicant personnel information that is evaluative for the purpose of determining the applicant's suitability in accordance with the Section 19.1 of the Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act. So with that, ask for adoption of that amended motion, please. Councilor McLean,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And on to item 3, public hearings. We do have a public hearing. So we'll call that meeting to order. And ask that mayors of the public, or members of the public rather, in attendance who wish to speak against or for the Direct Control Development Application 24-233 will have a 5-minute limit for speaking and must state their full name for the record. Also must state if they are speaking for themselves or on behalf of a group or organization. All right, Mr. Tebow, related to Direct Control Development Application 24-233.
So again, we'll ask Ms. Selena Newberry and Chris Egan to come forward. This is a direct control coming to council. Because it's direct control, it's a property out in the meadows.
All right, thank you.
Again, good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon again.
So before us today, we have a public hearing for a direct control application. This particular application at this time, we've received no written comments. We did advertise it in the paper for 2 weeks prior as per our requirements. And we did send out a letter to all the registered landowners within 100 meters.
All right, thank you. With that, is anyone present wishing to speak against Direct Control Development Application 24-233? Anyone present wishing to speak against Direct Control Application 24-233 a second time? Anyone present wishing to speak against Direct Control Development Application 24-233 a third and final time? All right, seeing none. Is anyone present wishing to speak for Direct Control Development Application 24-233? Anyone present wishing to speak for Development Control Application 24-233 a second time? And anyone present wishing to speak for Direct Control Application 24-233 a third and final time? All right, seeing none, I do declare the public hearing now closed. On to item 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4.1, minutes of regular meeting of the council, January 13th, 2025. Mr. Tebow.
Administration has nothing to add to the minutes, so back over to council.
All right, thank you. Anything arising? I'm prepared to make that required motion. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January 13th, 2025 as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5, business arising from the minutes. There are none. Item 6, bylaws. Item 6.1, first reading for land use bylaw amendment 2-2025. Mr. Tebow.
Again, we'll call up Ms. Selena Newberry and Chris Egan to speak to the land use bylaw amendment.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So before us, we have a request to amend our land use bylaw. This particular one is to amend the property that is highlighted in blue on the screen from its current land use district, which is the heavy industrial district, M3, to a medium industrial district, or M2 district, to better meet development objectives for the property. Potential future uses that they're looking for on this property would be things like agricultural equipment sales and service, things like that. And unfortunately, in the current districting of the M3, that's not a use that is listed, so it can't be, a permit couldn't be issued for it.
All right. Thank you. Anything else arising? None whatsoever. All right. Thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
I do have a question. There is quite a bit of traffic in that area, especially during harvest. When would that be discussed? Especially if it's a retail kind of application.
Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Sorensen. One of our requirements is that we are required to send this to Alberta Transportation, which we have done, and they have submitted us responses back. And I actually did include those in the package because there is a potential for a future right-of-way in this area at some point in the future, but it also may not happen. Some things are like that in the planning world. But one of the requirements for a development permit, again, would be to submit to Alberta Transportation for a roadside development permit, and they would take all of that into account. And particularly, they would look at the traffic and stuff. So in the future, depending on what they chose to develop here, they might have to do a traffic impact assessment and a number of things like that.
All right, thank you. Counselor Sorensen?
Yeah, I'd be prepared to make the motion.
Sure, very well.
That council gives first reading to bylaw 2-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.2, first reading land use bylaw amendment 3-2025. Mr. Tebow.
Same two people, same type of discussion, different piece of property.
All right, very well. Thank you.
So good afternoon again, Mayor and councillors.
Good
This
afternoon.
particular land use amendment is actually for our Eureka Industrial Park. So we had two subdivisions before the council meeting started. They are in this particular area. So we are seeking to get our first reading for this rezoning. Part of the process for rezoning is first reading, then we set up a public hearing. So we put an ad in the paper, and I will mail out letters to everybody within 100 meters, including anybody that's in the MD. So I have addresses from the MD for that. And we would continue forward. We do have a current area structure plan for this area, and this particular zoning is in line with what the zoning for this area in the area structure plan is. So it's not like we've gone a whole drastic different direction than that at this time.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising whatsoever? Seeing none, so I'm prepared to make that required motion. Councilor Redford?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 3-2025 to amend land use bylaw 13-2020.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 6.3, proposed supplementary assessment bylaw 5-2025. Mr. Tebow.
We'll have Mr. Orwell come forward and speak to the supplementary assessment bylaw.
All right, thank you. Mr. Orwa.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council.
Good afternoon.
Now, before you is our proposed supplementary assessment bylaw 5-2025. And if you recall, this is the bylaw that authorizes the town assessors to assess improvements that have not been previously assessed. And of course, they are prorated over a period of time. If you may recall, this is the particular bylaw that delayed last year, and we had to request municipal affairs to allow us. So this time we're very proactive and we want to make sure that it is in on time. So once this one goes through, we'll just be waiting. Once our mill rates are passed, then we'll bring back the supplementary property tax bylaw. So we're just requesting council to go through the first, second, third, and final reading for this bylaw.
All right, thank you, Mr. Orwa. Any questions arising? Councilor Bruin?
No questions from me, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make the first motion that council gives first reading to bylaw 5-2025, the supplementary assessment bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. All right. Second required motion, Councilor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 5-2025, being the supplementary assessment bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Councilor Rumford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion that council unanimously agrees to proceed with third and final reading to bylaw 5-2025, being the supplementary assessment bylaw of the town of Tabor as presented.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Counselor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll chime in now. The council gives third and final reading to bylaw 5-2025, being the supplementary assessment bylaw for the town of Tabor as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. On to item 7, action items, item 7.1, 2024 write-offs. Mr. Thibault.
Again, we'll have Mr. Orwa here, and he'll speak to the 2024 write-offs in front of us.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roy.
Again, good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. Now, we do have our 2024 write-offs. Some of them we provided the listing, especially the meadows, as per the agreement where, everything is taken care of by the town of Tabor. But again, we also do have our grant in place of taxes. And of course, grant in place of taxes, these are the properties that we have within the town. There are 3 of them, of course, from the provincial side. We have the courthouse, the provincial building, and of course, the old Baron Eureka building. Now, if you recall, they started by giving us very little, and then now it's only 50%. So one thing that I would like to mention here, these properties belong to the government, but remember, to account for these, municipalities are paid grant in place of taxes. So we'll only get 50% after levying the taxes. So the difference, which is a 50%, must be written off. On the other side, on the federal side, we get 100%. So those are in total, if you add the one for the meadows plus these other properties, we're going to write off about 63,766 this year.
All right, thank you. Councilor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question just on the Meadows property. How come there's 2 that are significantly higher than the rest?
Well, that one might be a very difficult question to answer because it depends on the assessment, and I don't know exactly what is out there. But we do have, once we get the whatever was assessed, we subject it to our mill rates to give us the levy, and then we write off the taxes. But there could have been some improvements to some of them that I might not be privy to at this point.
Yeah, I believe it's because there's some building that's gone on some of the lots have been sold. That would be the difference. Mr. Thibault?
Yeah, I know for sure that one of them, we own the show home still, and so the assessment of that property would include the show home, for sure. I don't know what the second one might be that you're looking at, but one of them is for sure the show home.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Right, someone to make that motion? Councilor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make the motion that council approves the write-off of property taxes for the Meadow properties in the amount of $44,340.18 and the provincial properties in the amount of $19,426.07 for a total of $63,766.25.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.2, DP 24-23348, 1872nd Avenue, manufactured home. Mr. Thibault.
Call upon Selena Newberry and Chris Egan again, and this is to do with the public hearing that we just had earlier, that property.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This application comes to us from out in the Meadows. We have actually approved a previous application for this particular property. The original application was for a semi-detached style home. They've chosen not to go forward with that and instead of put this application in, as this is a single family home and it is manufactured off-site and then kind of moved to site and finished put together. It does meet the definition of a manufactured home. However, this one does require a small variance for the height. So we have brought it to council for approval. Its height variance is 0.13 meters, so when I say small, it is quite small.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, someone to make the motion? Councilor Sorensen?
Actually looks like a very nice design, and I think it'll be a great improvement out there in the Meadows. So I'd like to make the motion that council approves development permit DP 24-233 for a manufactured home at 4818 72nd Avenue, Unit 72, Condo Plan 2210424, with the following 11 conditions.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3, response to standard item 266, 2024. Mr. Tebow.
So I believe that Blake Koranick and Chris Egan will be coming forward for this particular discussion. Response to, I think it was Councillor Sorensen's item.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
And councillors. So this is indeed the long-awaited response. We appreciate your patience to an item that was moved actually on August 19th, where Councillor Sorensen asked that administration come back to council with investigating how we can better prepare for the life expectancy of our assets and a maintenance plan. As it turned out, two things were going on at the same time. In January of 2024, we completed the purchase of a new piece of software called PSD Citywide. And Blake was our implementer, purchaser and implementer of that. And so he's our subject matter expert on all things condition assessments and software. And he'll be speaking in just a moment and certainly be able to answer any specific questions. We had started a process in Public Works to generate a single linear asset picture or snapshot of a sample of what an asset management plan output would look like. And so when Councillor Sorensen asked her question, it allowed us to continue the work on Citywide, enter the information that we had on the roads and walks asset class, and that was our best, most comprehensive list of condition assessments. We do them every year. And so we were able to populate Citywide, and then I tasked Blake to produce a report. And so he's been working steadily on that and got it to this particular point in time where what's attached to this particular RFD is a sample. There are some components that are critical in actually producing a 10-year renewal plan that we would require from council if we were to move forward. But for now, we just use PSD's sort of standard metrics, and which allowed Blake and them to produce this report. And so with that, I will turn the time over to Blake to walk you through the major components of a typical asset management report, and then the implications, and then answer any questions you might have specifically about the details that are in there.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
Does anybody have any questions at this point in time?
I think that's a pretty
All right,
definite no.
okay. I'll take you guys through this report here, and I'll try not to put you to sleep. So basically, yeah, we chose roads and walks, not arbitrarily, but we had the most comprehensive data set available to us, basically piggybacking off of the Transportation Master Plan that was done in 2024 with MP Engineering, spearheaded by Mr. Raman Lahiji. But basically, with that information, we had a technologist or somebody from MPE walk every single piece of road and assess every single piece of road and sidewalk that we own. So with that, we were able to kind of put together the most comprehensive data set we had. So kind of in conjunction with migrating to PSD Citywide, it was very easy to choose roads and walks just to produce this report. It required very little work on administration side, just to really put it together, crunch some of these model numbers, and then produce the report you guys see here today. So essentially, there is a couple different metrics involved here. One of them is risk. So with the risk involved with any of our linear assets, there's a probability of failure and the consequence of failure. So those are metrics that are used to help define the risk of if an asset's going to fail. As well, the other key metric is our levels of service with that too. As well as asset conditions. So with the levels of service, that's pretty straightforward. That's our roads and walks, our water distribution, whatever. And you can take that information and you can add different weighted criterias on that, depending on what you got, what council really highlights as more important levels of service or less important levels of service. But again, that's a council level discussion for the future. And then the asset condition is where the technical staff ourselves come in. So we go around and we would do a condition assessment on every, in this case, this linear asset is roads and walks. So we would go and put a condition assessment on every single piece of block-to-block infrastructure, roads and sidewalks, and then take all of that information, basically put it in our repository, and then we run these models that produce, what's our most, our worst assets, what's our overall condition. So as you guys kind of go through this report here, it highlights that we have about $102 million worth of roads and walks currently. That's based on 2024 replacement values. And then with our asset conditions, as you guys will see here, we're in quite a good spot. Our road network is in very good condition. That was kind of highlighted by PSD as well as our internal staff here. So as you guys can see, we're in a fairly good location here. There is some poor roads that with capital renewal, we can get that looked after. But yeah, as you go through here, you can kind of see our sidewalks. Most of them are in fairly good shape. Asphalt roads are similar. And then basically the different metrics that you can use to kind of assess roads and walks or any other linear asset is basically the estimated useful life or the EU well, as well as the condition assessment. So both of those metrics can kind of help operational staff determine A, what's aging, and then B, let's do a condition assessment on it and determine if it needs to be replaced in the near future or not. So as you go through here, now again, take this forecasted replacement needs with a grain of salt. This is our first crack at it, and it is just a draft for you guys, but it just kind of gives you a snapshot of what an asset management program populated with good data, condition assessment data, replacement data can kind of produce these forward outlooks of, how's the municipality doing with what we're funding to date, what we need to fund, and what that looks like. So again, don't get scared by this figure 6 here, just because it is a snapshot and it is our first crack at it, just to give you guys an idea of what that looks like. Again, with a asset management program. So again, and it even gets kind of brought down to a granular level, which is about 10 years here, kind of shows us again, this is what the model predicts we need to spend. Administration takes this information and uses it to make, recommendations to council. So again, it's only data, it still needs to be interpreted, but this kind of gives you a snapshot of, what we're looking at here for replacement needs on the both roads and walks networks. And then again, if you're going through it here, we have our life cycle management. It just gives us administration as well as council kind of a snapshot of what we do. So obviously on our roads networks, our roads, they're built, they degrade naturally over time, and then typically we do a mill and overlay on them. It gives them that extended period of life. But yeah, that's how you extend the life of our roads and walks. And it kind of just shows us what different metrics we use. So an event trigger would be if the condition of that road gets to 40 or 50 out of 100, that triggers the software to say, hey, this should be up for a mill and pave, and then it restores it to about 90% of new condition. On the sidewalk side of it, it was a little bit more difficult to quantify it just because typically staff don't go and do a whole section of sidewalk block to block. It's very cost prohibitive, A, and then B, typically there's just individual panels that will pop or cracks that come up. So staff actually kind of go more of a panel approach or a section of sidewalk, but basically a sidewalk you let degrade until you need to replace panels or an entire section. But basically, yeah, this kind of highlights the life cycle strategies of sidewalks currently here of what we do. And then as you get into that, you get into more of the risk analysis stuff, which again, that comes back to the probability of failure and the consequence of failure. So to make it into layman's terms, if a piece of sidewalk fails, it's not going to be the end of the world. If a piece of key water process equipment in our water treatment plant fails, the consequences are astronomically higher. So that's kind of where you get the difference there. But on a very high level, that's kind of the difference there. As you see with our roads networks, we're in a pretty good spot. There's 0 assets that are almost certain to fail, which is fantastic. Likewise, on our sidewalks, we're in a very similar position where we have very few sidewalks that are deteriorated to the point where they're going to fail. Which again, it's a piece of sidewalk, so failure just means it has to be replaced. It's not going to really impact anything on that level, but. But just going through there, yeah, same thing. Because we don't have a lot of detailed metrics to add in for our risk right now, that takes a lot of input from council and a lot of future dialogue. So really, at this point, you're looking at historical cost, replacement cost, and then condition assessments to basically come up with these figures here. So at a very high level, an asset management program can produce documents like you see here. It gives council a good snapshot of how we're doing with each linear asset class or non-linear asset class, how much future funding is required and what that looks like. And so yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of where administration can go with this. So.
All right, thank you. Councilor Bruin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. It's really quite interesting. Does this take into account population growth and industry? Like as we're, hopefully we're going to be increasing our population over the next
So
few
for
years.
that's a fantastic question. In the case of this report here, these models are only run on our existing infrastructure, so linear stuff. So it won't take into effect whatever future roads and stuff we have. This is just saying, with the existing roads and walks network we have, this is what our future replacement is going to look like here.
So if we suddenly had a boom in population, say 5,000 people, whatever happens, or a big industry comes into town,
Sure.
will this take into account that, like more traffic on the roads?
That would be very, very detailed information to input into it. What I would assume from the planning side is that, we would start planning for some of this, future road expansions or increase our road network, build new roads to our new subdivisions or industrial subdivisions, and then you'd have new asset classes. But to my knowledge, I don't think that this program right now, you might be able to input data like that, but it just more looks at an asset and its deterioration over time.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Councilor Bickering. Pardon me? You had a question, Mr. Egan?
No, I just was going to add,
Sorry.
as new subdivisions and new roads were constructed, they would be added in as assets. And then every year as we did condition assessments, we might see an acceleration in certain roads deteriorating, and then the modeling would represent maybe switches in where year over year where the model would ask us to, or suggest that we put the dollars that council attributes to that maintenance. So it doesn't do planning,
No.
But it does do assessments and does stay current. And as the environment changes, the model adapts and changes to those particular adjustments and new assets that come online.
Best thing, for example, we added 56th Street there 2 years ago. Now we have more traffic in this part of town. The roads are being used more. And we've extended 44th Street, I believe, north, that little gravel section. Now we're seeing more traffic coming through there. So we know, common sense wise in our world, that there's going to be more wear and tear on those roads. But this doesn't recognize it unless we somehow input that.
Yeah, it recognizes it as we do condition assessments every year on those particular roads.
So this wasn't based on a population of 10,000 or anything like that?
No, it's really, it starts with the asset, volume of assets, the number of assets, and then works from that perspective. The goal of typically of an asset management program is to move from, I don't want to say ad hoc, because right now the staff are doing this kind of in their heads. But at a certain point in time, when there's too many things going on, you need some help from computers, from the robots.
Well, I think it's great the way it's set up here, like gives us a plan, but just the concern, like as we grow, there's more wear, more everything else on the roads and sidewalks, but it's very good, thank you.
All right, Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the report, Blake. Very comprehensive. I think Council Sorensen made the query last August regarding this subject because of the sudden and unexpected failure of a critical piece of equipment at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yep.
That happens. Now, you mentioned risk analysis. Would that have been caught if you had proper or better risk analysis, Mr. Franek?
I would say if we had the same level of condition assessment data in our asset management repository, it most likely would have been closer to the top of the list of, hey, we need to replace this key piece of infrastructure, essentially. But again, we don't have this level of condition assessment data on all of our infrastructure, and that's where our shortcomings are currently.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. A great presentation, and I think it's very valid and very useful information. And I was going to say, hey, why did I bring this up? And it was, it was because there was three that had come to mind, a very unexpected and very costly projects that now needed to be funded by the taxpayers. So any way that we can, as council or administration, predict this and help budget for or forecast this in our funding models would be beneficial. And I think this is great. And if you guys can use this as a tool to help us, do budgets and, maintenance or what have you, then, I think it's a great tool.
All right, thank you. Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Councillor Sorensen said and ask, so basically the model, this will model, but it's only as good as the data that you enter into it. And so some of that is probably, over the years, it's not something that we were necessarily thinking about, so it won't be perfect, but I think that this will help us, especially from a budgeting perspective, to have a better idea of what our infrastructure is like. And I appreciate the continuity it provides too, because sometimes there's turnover in staff, and like you said, staff are doing it in their heads and have done a pretty decent job so far, but we're humans, I guess, so we're more fallible than the robots. I don't know.
Well, often we still, as Blake mentioned, we use the robot to keep all of the information, and then it does the first sifting, and then we run it through the people to make sure that they are thinking the same thing and they're seeing the same thing anecdotally. My experience in university sectors which are essentially towns and sometimes fairly large cities during the day, is that combination starts to predict, you start to see way fewer failures that are catastrophic or, so in parlance of asset management, we like to do preventative maintenance to avoid reactive maintenance when something fails and now we have to jump on it and fix it. And predict what we would call corrective maintenance, which is that plan where we see, okay, we know where this piece of equipment's going. We're going to see it in the budget in 29 or 30 or 31, but it's coming, and then you can start to predict instead of just the next year or the next 3 years like we do. Because at times there's desire to move some things around to level set the funding. Is the most common. So there's a predictable funding mechanism of if we give you $2 million a year for 10 years, you can solve all the problems. And we do have some flexibility in moving things around and tackling versus $5 million one year, nothing the next year, and the impact on the tax base that creates and the troubles that generates in people's minds. So, there are in the strategic asset management, and this is again, we'd be coming back to council, there are things that it's fine to let fail because there's not much of a consequence of that failure. And as Blake mentioned, there are other things that we definitely do not want to have any failures in because it puts public health at risk. And then there's everything in betwixt and between. And so some of that is professional advice. And then I have the beholder, the council feedback of this is what the people, as represented by council, think is important and not important, and then we turn around and implement it into a program like this, and then can start that continuity where you start to see year over year, and we start to explain not the year, but the changes in what you saw last year to this year, and the predictive modeling and how successful we are in that to avoid unexpected catastrophic failures, or in the case of predicting them, which would be okay, and then we tackle them that way. But it's a little bit more methodical, and there is of course, there's always a cost to becoming smarter and faster and better. But what we'll do, maybe hearing no negative, we hate this. There's a bunch of work we can do to start explaining, okay, this would be their next step. As part of this decision item, you can see that this is one asset class, and there's 8 others identified, some of which we have no, other than as-built drawings and maintenance manuals. We don't have asset identifiers on pumps and things like that, and pieces of pipe like in our plants. We don't have condition assessments of those things, and so we would have to do a lot more modeling to get to where we currently are in the roads and walks, which we have really knowledgeable people, and you can do that in Excel and on an AutoCAD drawing rather than a tool but we now have the tool. So we have the option, and we can be a little bit a la carte with that as well, and certainly tackle the things that are more important first, and at a rate that is acceptable to the balance of failure versus pouring a whole bunch of money into a bunch of administrative work. So there's always balancing going on. We're completely flexible on that. We just wanted to introduce to you what we've got as far as software, what we're currently doing, and what aspirationally what we could provide if that was in the interest of council. So in the 2026 budget cycle, we'll come forward with kind of the next step maybe, if that's okay.
All right, thank you, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that actually, I appreciate this report. It's really great, and I think this idea is fantastic. And that was kind of going to be my question of how long do you think it would then take to get all 8 kind of like just
So we aren't able to make a guess at this particular moment in time, but we could, if that was council directed administration to go away and prepare an estimate of costs and hours, number of man hours and costs, and whether we had the capability and capacity to do it ourselves and come up with a plan, then we could come back to council with that plan, which would include costs and our best guess, and then council could assess that and
Sure, yeah.
Question. Just, I was just looking for like a timeline per se, not necessarily the cost of, but like timeline of how long do you think it would just take to get all of those kind of assets into this program so that when it, like we were talking about budgetary predictions and stuff, you know, and then we kind of have a know of, okay, all of these across all of these departments, all these assets or whatever, these are the ones that we're gonna have to cover and pay for and replace or whatever, you know, so then going forward, then that all just comes to council across all divisions. How long do you think that would take? That's just my question.
So there's two options, I guess, at the bookends. We could, with the current workforce that we have and the current expertise and knowledge, do the best we can. And then the other end would be to do like the transportation master plan. We contract out to an MPE, someone who would go and do all that work for us. That would take less than a year, but it would cost a fair amount of money because it's, at the end of the day, it's time for people. We could do it off the sides of our desk as fill-in work. That timeline would be measured in many years because there's a vast amount of information to be gathered and to go from a ad hoc reactive model to a predictive model. But this report, if you go through it, you can see all the information that we've got for this particular asset class. So a year and many years, as it's not a simple or easy thing, and it's not very quick.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, it was kind of close to what Councillor McLean was asking, but, you know, focus on, you know, the key areas would be my suggestion. But what are key areas? Like, everybody thinks that their
Right.
department's important. So, yeah, we'll just, follow the knowledge from the staff. And I look forward to your report. And I think it's not only stability and knowledge for administration, but also for council. Because, you know, obviously, people change up here too. So I think it's a tool for both of us to use. So thank you for the information.
All right, yes, and thank you so much, Blake, for the very impressive, very detailed report. Just a couple things came up. Just number one, you talked about the sidewalks there. So panel, is that just like the 4-foot section, roughly, whatever that is?
Yep.
A section, that's what you're talking about, panel?
Yes.
So we do that periodically?
Yes.
You're talking about a section, so what would a section include that we might do?
A section is pretty arbitrary. It can be like one panel to, 3 or 4. You could be looking at a 10-foot section, whatever's really,
Okay.
Heaved from, the differential settlement and our freeze thaws that we have. So that's one of their repair strategies is they do grind down some of that differential settlement or they'll just replace panels as well. So.
Okay, great, thank you for that
Yep.
clarification. Just a couple other questions related to the, like this particular report. Are we following somebody else's model? Is this kind of a blanket kind of a model, or is it like?
It's somewhat of an industry standard model, yeah.
Okay.
So PSD, they do this. Their software is implemented by many different municipalities in Alberta, and on a very basic level, you can use the same inputs to get the outputs that we have as well. As you go deeper into it and you start to change some of the parameters of what the levels of service are and, all of these good things, you can get very creative with the modeling, but this is just kind of the, basic run of the mill.
I understand that.
Yep.
So would that be any more beneficial at all, like comparing this to some similar size municipality with similar assets or infrastructure and or equipment?
You
for that matter?
could. I think mostly we want to look just within our own house, so to speak, just to say these are the issues that we have and how much are we spending. All I can speak to is that the PSD rep that I worked with said that our roads and walks are in better condition than most that come across their desk in terms of running these models and stuff. So, yeah.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Blake.
Yep.
Chris, appreciate that very much. All right, any other questions arising? All right, just, we just need a motion to accept for information. All your, you don't need that at all. Okay. Okay. All right, on to item 7.4, Chamber of Commerce redesign invoice. Mr. Tebow.
Okay, this one I was going to take on. So the Chamber of Commerce has submitted a second invoice. So we did have one invoice a while back that council agreed to pay for. I think in the neighborhood of $11,000 or $12,000. We now have this invoice due to another sale of property that was in the chamber land that we had provided for them to build their building. And so this update or this land sale puts the chamber in a position where they need to do another redesign for, water and landscaping and parking lot. So there is no particular recommendation. I know council was expecting the first invoice, maybe not expecting the second invoice, but there was discussion around it. I believe that there was a presentation that came to the chamber. So this was forwarded to me to make the same request that was made last time. So over to council for discussion. Everything that's in the RFD is all the information that administration has.
All right, thank you. I guess for me, I guess I have to rely on our chamber reps there. Okay. Yeah, so I guess from that perspective, whatever you can help us out with would be helpful.
As much as I don't love paying additional costs, I do understand why the Chamber of Commerce has brought this forward. So the town of Taber sold an additional portion of land, and the chamber was agreed to allow us to sell that section of land, but then they did need to redesign some of the landscaping. I can't remember what else it was. Drainage. It was minor, but from their perspective, there was no benefit to them to do this redesign or to sell that extra. So they agreed to it as long as there were no additional costs to them. And so I can understand that. If I put myself in their shoes, I would feel the same way. So, we have this bill in front of us. If anybody has any questions or anybody would like to add anything, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Councilor Redford.
Yeah, I think, sold the land. I think we can't wait for the chamber to build their building, and it'll be a great building, and I'm ready to make a motion to pay the bill. So I'll make a motion that council directs administration to assist the Chamber of Commerce with a payment towards the redesign costs in the amount of $14,986 to come from capital reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Councilor Bruin, you had a question?
No, that's fine.
All right. Carried now. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.5, Green Municipal Fund Recreation Facility Study. Mr. Tebow.
So this one will be me as well. A little while back, I had asked council if we wanted to go forward with what initiative. Council had identified in our strategic plan that a multi-use dry land facility was one of those things. And I asked if I should go away and see if we can find some kind of a grant opportunity. So I have found a grant opportunity through our grant providers. They came back with this Green Municipal Fund. And they have found that the Green Municipal Fund would support a feasibility study, 50% of those costs. So I asked MP, our contracted provider, to supply us an estimated cost, which is around $130,000 to do a feasibility study for the parameters that were listed in the RFD. And so 50% of that cost would be about $65,000. So this is just me bringing that information back and seeing if council wants to move forward with the feasibility study. One of the other benefits of using this particular fund is that it does carry forward to the capital building portion where other monies would be granted through this initiative, up to 80% of the construction costs to a maximum of $10 million. So if we remember the Coaldale facility, that was about an $18 million facility. It was coupled with a school, but I believe the $18 million was the dry facility costs. So that's what's in front of council. Administration has put a recommendation there based on the strategic plan that council asked us to look at. So back to you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bruin.
I think it's a very good study you've done here for the grant. It does lead up to the maximum of $10 million on the green municipal fund. So I think this is a good way to go to get on track to getting a recreation center in the town. So I'm prepared to make the motion that council directs administration to move forward with the recreation facility feasibility study grant to be funded from the 2025 capital reserves in the amount of $65,000.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Sorensen.
I just had a question, because we may have some partners, the MD or other municipalities. Would this affect the grant then, moving forward in this manner?
A feasibility study wouldn't affect any grants that we might get in the future. But if you're asking, do we want to ask the MD to participate in the feasibility study financially? We could do that. The administration did not ask the MD that question to participate in the cost of the feasibility study, but it is going to be a regional study, so it's going to include assets that are here and in the surrounding area. So I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but we didn't talk to the MD about splitting any of the 50% cost of the $65,000.
Can I
Sure,
clarify,
yep.
please? Also, I was just discuss about the $10 million, or like moving forward with the funding component of it. Would it matter if, there was more people involved on board?
It wouldn't affect the conditions of the grant, but it would help us from a capital cost perspective. Yes, for sure. I mean, it's not going to affect the outcome of what the feasibility study shows, but after the feasibility study is done, we would then be in a spot to probably talk to the MD and Barnwell and Vauxhall and see if there's any interest in any type of collaboration efforts to actually construct the facility.
So I was wondering if there's interest in us asking for people to collaborate with this study and start at this initial phase instead of inviting them to the party afterwards.
Yeah, I think I see where you're going with that, Councillor Sorensen. So more of a letter invite out there? Is that what your information, letter invite?
Well,
was
I'm
that
not
same
sure
as?
how you normally collaborate with these things, but even just a discussion with the administration staff at all, because we've invited certain partners to have a strategic planning session on
Right.
this. So
Right.
maybe we need to invite them and see if they're willing to
Okay.
support this.
All right. Councillor Firth?
Yeah, I do. I think that this is that's a great suggestion, is to ask some of the other stakeholders. Are you thinking of support in theory, or asking for support financially to pay for part of this feasibility study?
Well, we could always ask for money. Yeah, well, and really, I wasn't quite finished with the thought, but maybe we should ask for money, monetary first.
Right, yeah.
And see if they're willing to help support it in that way.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Effort.
Yeah, that was more my thought. Like, if we pay the 65 grand and we get the facility, it's not, that's a small portion. If the MD, if they're involved in the 65 grand, I know they have to spend some money. Do they feel more involved in the whole decision when it comes down, right? I mean, the only thing then it's a town of Tabor / MD building. I mean, then we'd have to make sure, they would have to be more involved, or, do we muddy it up that way? But I think I would rather put the money in now if I was them than they feel involved, because if it doesn't happen, I mean, like you say, at least,
There's more buy-in.
I see that at the recreation level. We do lots of stuff at our rink, and there's a lot of MD and there's a lot of other town youth. You know what I mean? Them being part of it is a big benefit. So I think financially, part of the 65 grand isn't, is a good idea, right? I mean, they can always say no and we just go on.
All right, thank you, Councillor Firth.
Thank you. Yeah, and I agree. It's gonna, if we move forward with this, it's going to benefit everybody in the region. But it probably is a good idea to, like, right off the bat, to give the other organizations the opportunity to be a part of it. But I'm in favor either way. Like, even if we have to pay the entire 65,000, or the MD says, we're interested in being a part of this. I'm glad it's going to include the whole region, but they're not interested in contributing financially at this point. I would still be in favor of including them as in the planning process.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Broom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all your thoughts with getting others involved. But I think the initial stage of this is to get the feasibility study done. Sometimes too many cooks spoil the stew if you get everyone involved with their opinions this early. I'm in favor of the town going ahead with this. If they want to get involved, that we can tell them we spent $65,000 on the feasibility study. Are you in or out? But I still feel my motion that we move forward with it now to get it rolling before it gets too late.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tebow.
So I just wanted to clarify that regardless of who pays for the $65,000, the MD, Vauxhall, and Barnwell we're always going to be part of the feasibility study. It's just, do we want them to contribute upfront? And if that's the case, then certainly administration can go ask that question. The MD is aware that we're looking at doing this. They were already part of the initial discussions to identify the Green Fund. So administratively, they're aware, but I didn't ask them for any money upfront.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Yeah, and just with previous grant applications, it's good to have everyone on board at the beginning. And so I just wanted to make sure we have a letter of support. If that's the way that this council wants to move forward, then I'm okay with us, the town, paying for the feasibility study and then moving forward with other financial obligations after.
All right, thank you. That's the general consensus, and to go forward with some invite format in that regard. Cover those bases. Yep.
Yeah, I think alternative one might speak to that loosely, but it would send us a way to go get some more information and come back to council.
All right, thank you, Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there a deadline to get this grant application in? To get maybe potential responses from the other parties involved?
There is a deadline, but we're in plenty of time to reach that deadline if we were to go away and ask the question to the MD. I don't know the actual date, but I know we're not up against some kind of we're not pressed for time at this point.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Okay, I'd be prepared to make the motion that council directs administration.
We actually have one on the table
do we?
currently with
Oh.
Councillor Bruin.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind.
All right, so we're okay with that?
Can I
Or
get
would
the
you like
motion
amendment?
read back then?
Sure.
It's just the one up there? Okay.
Councillor Effort.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess to there, if I ask for a friendly amendment, which I'm not yet, of just adding letters of support from other participants in the feasibility study, is that pretty much, would that work, or how about that? I'm just gonna ask you that. Yeah, with letters of support from the MD and surrounding communities.
I think whether we get their support or not, we still have to do this. If the MD says no, they're not going to support it, or we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
We know Vauxhall wants the facility in their area. So we can ask, we hope they contribute, but we're going ahead with this. We know they probably won't pay us any. You know how well we've been paid with our recreation already in Tabor. Amendment to it may read something like we're going to do it. And
Yes.
I think the MD knows we'll do it whether they contribute or not. So I don't know, it'd be always nice to get money from someone, but I don't think we will.
Okay, now it's just an ask from Councillor Effort about that friendly amendment. To yourself, Councillor Bruin.
I don't really, because I want this to go ahead. Whether the MD does it or not.
I'm good. I think
Okay, all right, Councillor Firth?
I just wanted to clarify that that Councillor Renfort was asking for letters of support, but not financial support at this. Was that what you were intending?
Just letters of support that you supported.
But-
At least they're in then, that they said they would.
Sorry.
Thanks, Carly. Yeah, I did mean that.
Thanks, Carly, for your interpretation of Danny's
Yeah.
recommendation. No, I would be fine with the friendly amendment with letters of support to come from the affecting municipalities.
Not financial.
All right, thank you. We do have a friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? One opposed, carried. Thank you. All right, on to item 7.6, information for council. Mr. Tebow.
Okay, so I'll speak to a few of these items as well. We did have Arts and Heritage Committee vacancies. We have since had some terms expired, and people hadn't put their names forward to reapply, but with a little bit of gentle persuasion, there has been some names put forward. So there will be something coming in the future for the Arts and Heritage Committee to actually be a committee again. So that's item number one. Item number two is just the traffic committee minutes, so I don't know if council had any questions around the traffic committee minutes before I move on. Nothing, head shaking, okay. So the last item is an economic development update. And so again, this was one of the strategic priorities that council had on our list called the Tabor Advantage, and I was just going to get Amy Allred to come up and go through the slide presentation.
Hello, Council.
Hello, Amy.
Perfect. So I'm excited to share with you an update on the Tabor Advantage, which is, of course, one of the town's strategic priorities for Council and the CEO. Early last year, we interviewed different marketing companies to flesh out and create what the Tabor Advantage might look like, and Cake Marketing in Calgary did a truly excellent presentation and bid. We started working with them last March to build out what this looks like and how we can tell our success story. First slide. So through research and consultations over the last year, our brand story and tagline were developed, which is Tabor is centrally located and strategically strong. We are a vibrant, friendly community that fosters opportunity. Our strength lies in our people, our partnerships, and our place. And each works to support and cultivate growth where the businesses and lives flourish. We cultivate community, collaboration, connection. We cultivate life. Next slide. So this is the new Tabor Economic Development / Tabor Advantage logo. They did it in a couple different colors, which is nice. And if you go to the next slide, they purposely designed the shape of that logo to be a window and then created these fun variations that play on the cultivating life idea and also highlighting different industries within our region. So they have created a new landing page for us as well. So this is just a snapshot of the very top of it, growintabor.ca. So it's a very easy to use and navigate page that connects people to lots of information. So it answers the question, why Tabor, shares about life in Tabor and doing business here. It's very easy to read if you haven't looked at it already. It has up-to-date stats and direct contact information for our offices as well. Next slide. So we did a trial online ad campaign to promote this new website with Cake. It was a little off season, so we started at the end of October, went to December. Not really high economic development time, but our goals were to drive website traffic and encourage inquiries from businesses and entrepreneurs about the opportunity here. So within this trial, we received 36 active leads. So that's 36 phone calls or emails directly to our offices from this landing page. And 6 of them were actually direct questions about opening businesses here in town. So that's fantastic. We also received 4,937 clicks to the new landing page and over 897,000 impressions, which is fantastic for a very first trial campaign. So Cake is crunching these numbers now. They took them all back to look more in-depth into the details because they have much more deep data than this to figure out what will work better and how we can target this better going forward this year. They'll also be starting social media posts and articles that will be on the town's pages and will highlight economic development activities and initiatives. They have been truly incredible to work with, and I'm excited to see their ideas and plans that they have for this year. So these last few years, I'm sure you know, have been incredible years economically, and I just want to highlight a few stats for your references. So the first one there, the number of business licenses. So Tabor's business licenses have reached an all-time high of 622 business licenses when it renewed this year, which is a 42% increase over the last 8 years. So compared to 2017, that's 185 more businesses. Of course, the sale of commercial and industrial TAN land has also jumped drastically, with over $3.6 million of land sold in 2024, and 2025 shaping up to be similar. Next slide, please. So our population rate is one of the highest in Alberta, with a 9.3% growth rate over 5 years. These numbers are from the Alberta Regional Dashboard, so they don't have 2024 on there quite yet, but I am looking forward to seeing those numbers. And also, as Chris noted at the last council meeting, our building permit numbers are soaring. So this year, we saw a 77% increase from last year, and 2024 was a 70% increase compared to our very best year ever. From a larger perspective, the major projects in Tabor have increased 19% in 2023. Again, we're still waiting on 2024 numbers because this is the provincial site. But that means in the last 5 years that major projects have increased 368%, which is definitely something we're celebrating. Another economic indicator is the value of land title transfers that kind of measures the economic movement and activity. In 2023, they totaled $89.2 million, which is a 10% increase from 2022 and a 58% increase in the last 5 years. Over the past few years, we've been working hard to ensure that our community is investment ready and that people know about the opportunity here. So we have a big checklist there, but I'll just highlight a few of them. Of course, having a business-friendly council makes a big difference. Having residential, commercial, and industrial tax incentives makes a big difference and opens the door to a lot of conversations. Having shovel-ready land in the industrial park means that we can get people here and signed up right away. Connections with people who help funnel the leads, such as Alberta Ag and Forestry, Invest Alberta, and Invest Canada, to name a few. Having connections with them helps keep us front of mind and helps keep the opportunity of Tabor in rooms that we might not be in. So if we can stay on the front of mind of Invest Alberta and these other organizations, it will help us stay in the room. Of course, having a CA that's interested and active in economic development helps a lot. His being in the room and having those discussions and being willing to build those relationships lends to our credibility when we say that we are open for business. Doing research this year with Progressive West, like the Business Retention and Expansion Survey, helps us to ensure that we prioritize local business and help them be successful, that we focus here, not just looking for outside investment. So there's much more on the list, but as we continually and actively are working to ensure Tabor continues to be a great place to grow or a great place to plant your roots. Last slide, please. So all of this, of course, points to the strategic priority for the Tabor Advantage. We look forward to continuing to work with Cake Marketing to highlight this in different avenues and to growing our relationship and connections to ensure people know the opportunity that is here and to building and supporting our local businesses. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you so much, Amy, for the presentation. Very detailed and very well done. Any questions arising? Councillor Firth.
When you talked about clicks and impressions, can you explain what an impression is?
Yes. So when you type in Tabor Business and your Google ads show up, there's sponsored ads at the very top. That would be an impression. So someone saw the sponsored ad, they saw the Tabor website, but they didn't click on it.
So like a view?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I asked a question of Councilor Firth, and she didn't know, but she said it was a view. It's not a view. But I guess it is a view.
It's seeing that, but not a click.
Okay. Anyway, this cake outfit, how much money?
Do you remember off the top of your head?
I think council approved a budget of $56,000 or $63,000. This is something that's already been approved by council and budgeted for in 2024 and 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'd have to find the exact numbers, but it's definitely at least 56. It might be
I
higher.
think that was the 2025 budget was 56.
All right, sure, yeah, you bet. Councillor Sorensen.
I think this is great, and what a great town that we live in. I was just wondering how this page is linked then to the Town of Tabor actual website.
Yeah.
Can you get there somehow?
Yeah, so as you go through the new landing page, there's a bunch of different highlighted text that you can link. So if you want to know about the incentives, you click on that link, and it takes you all back to the Town of Tabor page.
Okay.
So this is just the one landing page, and then you can kind of go wherever you want to go from that page. It's all connected.
And it's vice versa, sorry, is it like if you're on the town of Tabor and you click on economic development, will it take you to this?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Hopefully.
Stay tuned.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Amy. On to item 7.7, department reports. We'll go through those individually. Any questions, please advise. Starting off with Recreation Department reports. Administrative Service reports. Economic Development report. HR Department report. Finance Department report. CAO report. Engineering and Public Works report. Treatment Facilities report. Facility Management report. Planning Department reports. And Fire Department reports. Councillor Sorensen?
Ding, ding, ding. I just wanted to congratulate everyone. I believe you had your annual recognition night, so everyone was honored with their service awards and what have you. I also had a question in regards to this filming of training content. So I was wondering if you could elaborate perhaps on that.
All right, Chief Munchall.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. I appreciate it. If I could just take 2 seconds and go back to our awards banquet. Yeah, it was a wonderful night. There was 76 certifications of educational achievement given out that night. So that meant 4,000 hours of education by our firefighters, 1,200 hours of volunteerism as our firefighters, and over 300 calls this year were identified, plus all the years of service, 15 years, 12 years, and 5 years were given out this year. So thank you very much. Thanks for your attendance and the emails that you were able to send. Appreciate that. The second question, AC West. This is a very high honor. AC West is actually attended and supporting now as an educational model with the Underwriters Laboratory. This is one of the very first opportunities that we've seen a female firefighter in Canada to achieve this level, and we are very much supporting her moving forward, and also flying the Tabor flag, doing these videos, and it'll be actually put on the curriculum for Underwriters Laboratory. So this is a national and international category of education. So congratulations to her, and we want to see her excel. Thank
All
you.
right.
Any other questions?
Thank you. All right, no further questions. Moving on to item 7.8, Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Sorensen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended all my meetings, and I just wanted to announce that the 2025 Annual Association of Police Governance is May the 2nd and the 3rd in Westlock, Alberta. And in 2026, it will be hosted in Tabor. So we have quite the honor of announcing that, and stay tuned for more information to come.
All right, thank you. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the meetings I was able to attend, and I also wanted to make sure Tabor Titans charity game March 8th, get your skates sharpened, Mayor.
Absolutely.
We'll see you on the
Get
ice.
ready to go. All right, thank you. Councillor Brun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the meetings I was able to attend, rec board meeting and such. I wasn't able to make our last MPC meeting. Wasn't able to get a hold of anyone to tell them I wasn't going to be there, but I tried my best. I was stuck out north with a customer. I couldn't get back in time. I attended the state, like I said, the State of the Union. It was just very, very informational. Our mayor did a fantastic job with his speech, and I really appreciated the comments from the mayor of Coaldale and the Reeve of Tabor, how they enjoyed working with our town, and it was all very well. I've had numerous conversations with the Highway 3 committee, and they're preparing to make a presentation to the town of Pincher Creek Council. For some reason, they decided not to be a member this year, but I think with a little convincing, they'll come back on board. So that's all I have to report.
Right, thank you, Councillor Bruin. On to Councillor Firth, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended all the meetings that I was required to attend, as well as the Tabor Chamber of Commerce Annual Dinner and Awards. So I wanted to say congratulations to the Citizen of the Year, Edmund Zazer, the Business of the Year, Tabor Vision Center, and the Customer Excellence Award was Kirk's Trail Tire. So congrats to all of those winners. It was a great night. I also attended the State of the Region event, and it was very informative and lots of great conversation afterwards. So thanks to everybody that had a part in putting that together.
Right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing exciting to report, except I did attend the meetings I was supposed to attend. Also attended the State of the Region on Saturday afternoon. Had to leave a little bit early, but it was well received, and I think the speakers were all very, very good. I thought the Mayor of Coaldale was a little bit too long, but that's okay.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also was able to attend all of my meetings that I was required to, and I don't have anything to report other than that this month, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. And for myself, again, a variety of meetings, document and check sign requirements, a couple different media interviews related to the photo radar. I did also attend the Filipino Christmas party this year, as well as the Tabor Filipino Society year-end celebration function. Both very good events, very big events. Took part in the swearing-in requirement for the Tabor Police Commission for the newest member, Mr. Rene Angermeyer. I also did attend the special meeting of the rec board as well. And I attended and participated in the Chamber of Commerce Annual Dinner and Awards Night as well. And congrats to all the award recipients again. I did attend and participate with the third annual Tabor Titans Hockey Tournament and fundraiser for youth in sports and arts. And again, very well done event and very well attended, very successful as well. I did attend and participate with the Tabor Fire Department Annual Award Ceremony invite. And thank you so much, Chief Munshaw, and all your crew, 36 members strong, and all the many, many achievements that our Tabor Fire Department did for this past year in 2024, and all the many sacrifices they're involved with for the benefit of Tabor and area. I did also attend a Parkside Manor luncheon invite. I attended Tabor Legion Library Trivia Night invite as well. And with Miss Megan Brennan's assistance, I provided a congratulatory video for the 20th anniversary of the twinning agreement with Higashiomi at the request of Japanese Consul General. I did also attend and participated in the second annual State of the Region address, along with MLA Grant Hunter, MD Reed Mianaga, and Coaldale Mayor Jack Van Ryan presenting as well. And again, to reiterate, Deputy Mayor Jack Bruin was in attendance, along with Councillor Garth Beckering, as well as Councillor Carly Firth. So thank you all for attending as well. And I believe that was a very well attended, or fairly well attended, and very successful event as well. So thank you so much for all involved. And with that, would be the end of my report. Any questions arising for anybody's report whatsoever? Seeing none. Moving on to item 7.9, standard item council requests. Mr. Thibault.
It's been quite some time since I've been able to report. Item Resolution 266, 2024 for Councillor Sorensen, while it says in progress, was dealt with tonight, so that will be listed as completed for next time. And the previous item being completed for Mayor Prokop's resolution 295 for the concrete and asphalt. So over to council to see if we have something to talk about next time or not.
All right. Any new standard item council requests? Councillor Sorensen.
Hey, you can't let them get off that easy. 2 months in a row, or 2 council members. But someone from the archery club spoke with me, and I guess last year they mentioned that the flooring is peeling off. I'm not sure if it's acrylic or, I don't know, some type of flooring is peeling off and hasn't been addressed, and so they were wondering if someone could look after that. And so I'll leave it. Mr. Thibault?
I don't know if Mr. Egan knows anything about this or not. There was some discussion with them last year. I know that Blake was in some discussions around some quotes for some things, but I honestly don't know if it was the floor or not. So administration can take that away and just double check on what it was. But we definitely were having some discussions with the archery club last year around some improvements in their facility.
It's been a while since I've been in there, but I think just going from memory, I think, is that not a painted floor? Concrete floor that's actually just painted?
I really don't know. I haven't even been there.
Okay. No, the gym next door has got the rubberized type floor, but I believe that's just a concrete floor that was painted, as I recall. So if there's any peeling, it's got to be paint.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
peeling off, and so
Okay.
they've like helped peel the rest of it off, but
Okay.
it's patches now, and so,
Okay.
you
Yep.
know, they rent the facility, and maybe it is time that the town.
All right, fair
kind
enough,
of
yep, yep.
Renovates that, so.
Few
Can I
upgrades.
just let you guys take that back, or should I make a motion?
It would be best if we had a motion. I will take it back, but it'd be best if there was a motion. We wouldn't want to have the thing empty for next
Yeah,
time.
right?
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that administration investigate the condition of the flooring in the archery club room.
All right, thank you. Councilor McLean, you had a question also? Oh, you had an item? Okay, all right, motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. Councilor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think this needs to be added to the standing items, but I just wanted to bring it to administration's awareness that we're kind of getting a man-made speed bump, I think from a pipe that I remember when we were talking about like the drainage ditch, there's the 60th Avenue, right? Yeah, 60th Avenue, and it's between 58 and 57th Street. Anyways, there's like that ditch behind that street that then goes back towards the,
North?
yeah,
Okay,
it goes
yep.
north, and we were talking about the reserve land. Anyways, you remember that ditch?
Yep.
I think there's a pipe underneath the road that services that ditch. Anyways, it now looks like a speed bump. So I just wanted to maybe bring that up and bring that to council's or administration's attention in case they weren't aware of it.
All right. I'm sure some town staff have to be aware of that, going down that route at some point. All right, thank you, Mr. Tebow.
Just wondering, is it under the road or is it a culvert in line with the ditch? Under the road?
Culvert is heaving, basically, right? Okay.
Okay.
All right, that's,
The road is getting pushed up.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you. And no motion required for that? Easy enough to follow up with that?
Yeah, I don't know what motion we'd make at this
Yeah.
point, so we'll just go
Okay.
check it out.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other council standing item requests? None whatsoever, okay. Moving on to delegation, we have no delegations and/or media inquiries. No media inquiries.
I'm seeing the head
whatsoever.
shaking no, like usual.
Okay, expected that, all right. With that, I would just ask for a motion to move into closed session. Councilor Beckering.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion
Mr.
on-
Mayor.
Motion on the table,
I'm thinking about Mr. Chairman.
all in favor? Carried unanimously,
Oh,
thank
you're a
you.
patient man, John.